can you become an electrician if you leave school with no qualifications? Are you able to train as an electrician later on in life? And what if you want to do other trades alongside working as an electrician? It was my pleasure to be able to have a chat with Mike from GreenHawk Construction. Not only does Mike answer all these questions in perfect detail, he also goes into detail of real life problems that he's had in the past. In this podcast, not only will you learn some great tips to grow your business, but you'll also be inspired by General Mike's way of life. You'll get the General Mike bit later on, and what helps Mike keep up his momentum of success. So grab a cup of tea, as Mike would say, sit back and have a listen. Mike, welcome to Toolbox Talks for Electricians.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
No, not a problem at all. And I just want to start by saying, how did you get into being an electrician? What was your sort of path?
Well, I suppose there's a bit of a. I think as we all tradespeople, I think if we're honest, none of us like school. I think it was that sort of thing. I was on a very different path in life. Left school early. I was what they'd call
before your exams, was that, or?
Yeah. So I was. I since found out. Obviously, I'm dyslexic. I'm being tested at the minute for like ADHD as well.
Cool.
Because as I've had a few health issues, as we'll touch on a bit later on. I want to discover who I am. So the reason how I got into it is it's not my first trade. Right. I was in the motor trade originally. That's where I
came. So you were into your cars maybe as a kid or younger, and
massively.
wanted to be a mechanic.
Yeah, and a family friend owned a local dealership, right. a local backstreet garage as we know it as. Mm-hmm. And I started out washing cars, and that's how and I was just the more and more I was that annoying kid that what are you doing there? And I'm sorry, like, you're supposed to be washing cars. And I just became more and more annoying, which people say I still haven't lost.
Yeah, probably not a bad thing. It's good to ask questions.
Yeah, and it developed, and then obviously I was having the trouble with schooling and all that sort of stuff, and basically he said, "Look, do you want to come and work with me? We'll try and work something out with the school, and because it's either that or you're just going to get into a really bad path."
Yeah.
So I went into the motor trade, and I stayed in there for quite a long time.
Did you do qualifications like an apprenticeship as well?
Yeah. So I ended up, when I could legally do an apprenticeship, so what would that have been, 16, I signed on and did a full mechanics apprenticeship for what it turned out to be 4 years.
Right.
Because the company that I was doing my apprenticeship with kept moving the goalposts all the time, and I since found out that it was because they needed us on the course to keep getting paid, because it was almost like an individual.
So they kept colleges need students there, sort of thing.
Yeah, and we started out with, I think it was 35 lads, and I think in the end there was only 3 of us that finished. It's bad, really. And then I specialised. It went into main dealers then after that. I specialised in fault diagnostics.
Right.
So
that was your like step into electrical to start with them, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah. So I went into that and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then I met my now wife through work. And when they found out we were together, it's a massive no-no apparently in the motor trade. People, they don't like partners working together and all that sort of stuff.
Really?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, it was horrendous how I got treated. Yeah, and my wife. So I was a master tech then, and I couldn't go any higher. I'd gone peaked at 21. It was ridiculous. There's the next stage.
You're
running the workshop then. So you then, after that, you'll run the workshop. So you're then less on the tools. Mm-hmm. I didn't want that, and I thought, I'm 21 and I can't go no bloody higher. That's ridiculous.
You're quite ambitious then at that age.
Yeah, I've always been driven, and because I don't like people telling me no, and
if someone tells you no, does it egg you on to do better? Say, well, I'm going to prove you can. Yeah.
If people say you can't do this is one of our sort of things with the business. People will say, oh, you can't do that, and we'll prove them wrong. And
you
I
enjoy
always say,
doing that. So people thrive
love
off
it.
and does like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And I always say to customers, I literally went to a quote the other day and they were like, oh, I've had people around that said it can't be done. And I said, look, anything can be done
I
with
love
enough
that
money
attitude. Yeah.
and willingness to do it. I says, so
To
anything can be
learn
done,
it.
and they were like, oh wow, and that's how we do so well. So anyway, so I got left the motor trade. At this point, so one of my neighbours was an electrician from when he left school, and obviously he won't mind me saying it. He's considerably older than me,
Right.
and
Older the
just
wiser sometimes.
yeah. Well, I don't know about wiser, but yeah,
Right.
but yeah, and it was great. I mean, I bought my house, and we were doing all that up, and he was sort of mentoring me and stuff. And he said, "Look, why don't you?" And I just sort of fell in love with it. So I
Enjoy
retrained.
doing it, like.
Yeah, I just loved it, and then I retrained, and then I would say it was probably I wouldn't really recommend doing it, but for me it was the only option because I
Right.
just got married.
Mhm.
I'd got my daughter, at this point. So I was, what was I, 20?
You're a responsible father from then on. Then, yeah.
Yeah, and life changes, so I had to do it this way, and and I don't regret the way my life has gone getting into the industry. I wish I could have done it earlier, but I didn't.
Right.
And
But the thing is, you think about like the path that you took. Maybe that's a path that you needed to take to get where you are. In effect,
100%, yeah,
live with no
100%.
regrets in a way because you don't know if anything else was different. You don't know where you'd be now.
Yeah, exactly. And the life experiences that you have, knowing that I'm not working for somebody like that, it's not going to happen. And it gave me the business skills as well to go, that's not how you treat people.
Mm-hmm.
You look after people.
Stick to your morals, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, there's still the first business I worked for. I drive past it because it's a village next to where my mum and dad still are.
Yeah.
I'm still friends with their son who works there. I'm more than happy to go back in. I'll have a cup of tea with the lads, from time to time, And my first boss, he was looking back at it at the time, was quite hard on me, but he distilled such great work ethic in me.
Yeah.
On how to run the business, and he gave me loads of really cool examples. But they were, because I'm a very
tough love in a way.
Yeah, you're very visual on, he's like wasting money and all that sort of stuff. It was brilliant, and I look back now fondly. He's a grumpy git, and he still is a grumpy git. But it was I needed it, and I was a handful. And now so I've got retrained, and I went straight out on my own from day one.
Did you think that training to be a mechanic was harder or electrician?
It was hard because being a mechanic, it was dragged out for me, massively dragged out, and I learned more with the lads.
Maybe.
Yeah, so the more with the lads who I was actually working with than I actually did at college. College is basically just a paper exercise. Just to go, yeah, thanks, I've done that.
Yeah, and these days, I think you've got to have that bit of paper to say yes, you can do it, rather than being the best electrician or mechanic in the world. You've got to have a bit of paper.
Yeah, it's really tough, and I strongly advise people now. So whoever, obviously, if you're watching this and you're thinking of coming into any trade, that is, or any industry, and you're potentially, at that age where you think, oh, coming up to do my GCSEs, this is what I'm going to do. Don't follow my path. Just make sure that you knuckle down. And my own dad would laugh at me for advising this, to people, because I was like so the opposite way. But it's so important now to have that piece of paper to say.
Definitely, I think it's a lot more. Like, there's a lot of people on site that have got the qualifications that haven't got the experience though, but they're favoured because they've got that bit of paper.
That's right. You just need it. You need it there just to open doors, and you never know which way your life's going to take you. And you might go into a trade and go, yeah, this is amazing. 3 years down the line, go, do you know what? This is not
my cup of tea. Like,
and what you're going to do. You don't want to be stuck in a job that you're miserable in for the rest. So wayward talking. That's how I ended up getting into
electric sort of. Yeah, it's a long-winded way, but it never is that simple. Well, I say never is. Some people, they do follow in their parents' footsteps, or when they leave school, they say, right, I want to be an electrician, want to be a mechanic, and they go do an apprenticeship that way. But like a lot of people, like myself as well, I didn't leave school and become electrician. I was a mechanic as well. I did that.
Oh yeah,
So, yeah. It's like I enjoyed cars. But then the reason why I jacked him, because I remember looking around the workshop covered in oil, thinking, I don't want to be like that guy. Sitting underneath that lorry getting covered in oil at that age.
Do you know what? The smell, sometimes it's like, so gearbox oil, you still remember like EP8090? It just smells like cat piss, and you're thinking, I don't want this.
It's dangerous, some of that as well. The cars and the lorries up in the air. I had my foot crushed as well by a ramp.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, but I remember back in the day, I could have got thousands for it, but I didn't. I thought, oh, cool, I got a week off. And I drove around on my moped with a cast on my foot.
Yeah, I had an accident at work, but I can't really say too much about it because I don't want to get in trouble. But I don't want to get them in trouble because I'm still friends with them. But I had an incident at work where a car fell on me, and it was so that was
these things happen. Then accidents do happen. That's what I think. Health and safety has gone mad at the minute as well.
I mean,
some of them things don't happen.
Yeah,
because you do get these young lads that just shove the ramp under and they don't put it in the right place, especially with Teslas these days. I heard that if you jack a Tesla up in the wrong place, it writes it off.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it like
because the batteries are underneath?
Fracture the battery or something?
Yeah, because if you damage the battery, that's it. It's writ off. So GreenHawk Construction then. I'm interested. Why did you call it GreenHawk? Because I like green, because obviously it sounds like you're green to the environment. And then hawk, it's a strong bird. But is that your thinking why you chose GreenHawk?
Yeah, pretty much. So I've got two other business partners. Yeah. So I get asked this on all podcasts, to be fair. And basically, I've got two other business partners, and they're absolutely wicked. But you try and get like three grown blokes to decide on a name. It took us ages, and it was basically on that because with green, because a lot of energy efficiency, all that sort of stuff that that you try and do as best you can, and obviously everything is getting greener and greener.
Yeah, it's massive at the minute, especially people going protesting and things.
Yeah, it's nuts. So and then there's that, and then we wanted something natural, and that's basically where it came from. And and I'd like to say that an eagle came to me in my dream and all that sort of stuff. And
you should have made a story up like that. That sounded cool.
I know I should have done. I should have gone really cool and just thought, oh yeah,
I had a sight. Yes,
a bit like Wayne's World, isn't it?
Once when I was sitting there with my friends,
it
was something like
that, and it was just literally that, and we were looking at it, and I used to be big into like hunting as well and things like that, and and my mate used to have a hawk when we were younger, and it just sort of stuck. We chucked it out, and like GreenHawk, that's it.
It does sound good. It sounds. Well, I don't know. You look at it, you think GreenHawk Construction compared to maybe something like Bright Sparks. I know a guy with a company called Bright Sparks, but I also to him, it doesn't sound good. Like it sounds like a kid's company.
It's a little bit not to be disrespectful to people, but I think you have got to put a lot of effort into your name,
especially if you're going to put the effort into promoting it and stuff.
Yeah, you've got to put a lot into it, and I don't like a lot of companies where they do these cheesy taglines and all that sort of stuff. I'm not into that. I just think no, you don't need.
This is what it says on the tin.
Yeah, just be simple and and classy. I suppose I think that's the key for it, because it just do better. So that's how it came about. In fact,
so did you start off as maybe GreenHawk Electrical, or did you?
No.
Whole new company.
No, whole new company. So basically, how it ended up. So I used to run my own electrical business. My business partner had his carpentry business,
right?
And then the business partner had a construction business, and we were working
together anyway.
And it just took such a long time because obviously when you're quoting for these big jobs, it took such a long time to sort of work through the backlog of all that. And our accountant said, look, you need to make one big company, because it'll make it easier. You're too big. You're too big to go to keep running it as three individuals.
Right. So in effect, you were forced maybe as a better option.
Yeah.
Join
forces. And we made one big company, and it took roughly 2 years to transition out of those. Because in my head, like, yeah, brilliant. Shut all those down. Next day, we're operating as GreenHawk. not at all. It took literally, I'd say, nearly 2 years to phase all those jobs out of what we used to call the old scheme.
Right.
And now everything's all priced up on the new scheme. And that's because we're booked for, 18 months at a time,
Right.
2 years, that sort of stage on the construction side.
Mhm.
And so it just took ages, absolutely ages. But I'm glad we've done it.
So when you work, like say you obviously GreenHawk Construction's on a site, maybe renovating a house, and the electrics is done.
Yeah.
Do you jump on and help maybe with the building or the carpentry, something like that as well?
Yeah. So I basically, I know this sounds big-headed, I suppose, and I hope nobody takes it that way, but
Yeah.
I can do pretty much everything on site. So I'll plaster. This is why I'm.
You can plaster as well. That's a skill in its own.
Yeah, so I can plaster. I do all the plumbing on the firm, other than gas, because obviously we're not gas safe registered.
Mm-hmm.
Although we were talking about me doing that, but I can't be bothered.
It's an extra thing.
Yeah, I don't want it. So I can tile. So I can do carpentry. I can fit kitchens, bathrooms, all sorts of stuff. So all my business partners are the same. So we've all taught each other.
So you're all quite good at everything.
Yeah. So we all literally have got our core skills, and we've basically taught each other how to do all the other things. So obviously, but also it's knowing your strengths and weaknesses. So me laying bricks, for example, there's no point because I can do it, but
I'm never as good as the bricky,
and it's never going to be as good as even the lads who work for us. I'm not as good as them. It's not going to happen. So. I try and stick on the utilities now is what I normally stick to. But on the electrical side, I'm so busy anyway that I'm pretty much in and out. So I'll do my first fix, second fix, and then I'm on to another job, and I'll come back as
you have a few jobs going at the same time.
Yeah. So we normally run one major project, and then we normally have like a smaller project on the go at the same time, and then I run. The lads will say I'm not the SAS of the firm, so I'll go around and do loads of other smaller electrical jobs all the time in between all that, while the lads focus on the core side of the construction business, should I say.
Right.
I just want to pause it there quickly and say thank you very much for tuning in to Toolbox Talks for Electricians. If you do me a little favour and boop that like button down below to help this podcast get out to other electricians to help them reduce stress, gain back time and earn more money. Now let's get back to what Mike was saying.
Since you're in GreenHawk Construction, do you feel that your customer base in effect has sort of doubled or grown a lot more rather than just being electrical?
Yeah. So it's a bit of a weird one because we tend to be on one place for, because we do quite a lot of major renovations for people. So we might be on one place for 6 months, and so the base for that, because people now realise that that's what we do. We literally, you make one phone call and we'll take care of everything.
A lot sort of thing, yeah.
And it's all done by us.
It's very convenient for customers, I bet. And they like that.
Because they don't have to deal with anybody else, And so, so I suppose it is busier that way than just being, because you can be, just a pure electrician, you've got to think your turnover of smaller jobs is massive.
Yeah.
So you're in and out.
You think if you had like loads of fuse boards to do, you could do 10 a week. Well, maybe not 10 a week, but you could do so many a week. You could earn good money, couldn't you?
Yeah.
How many times do you get a week doing fuse boards?
Yeah. And I think you'd get bored of it. No, and that's the problem with me. I've got a short attention span. So I get bored. So,
this is why you go for the ADHD test there, because
it's really weird because I get distracted really easy with those sorts of things, but it's really weird because you get hyper focus as well. So maybe
it's not an illness sort of thing. I think maybe it's an evolution of something that's better. Possibly.
It's a superpower, mate. That's the way I look
exactly.
It's
a
superpower.
Because you get bored of things that are boring, but then you concentrate and dive deep into things that you need to know about.
When I'm invested in something, I'm fully in. Like it's next level when I'm invested in something. It's like I'll research the living daylights out of everything. I know facts about everything. But then equally, once I'm done with that, it's switched off.
Right, done that. Learned that as much as I can on that.
Let's move on.
Yeah, similar to what you say, like you say with mechanics. When you got to a
Yeah.
certain level, you thought, hang on, I can't go any higher.
Yeah.
I'm going to evolve elsewhere.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it, of going actually. So if I was doing, let's say I was first fixing a kitchen extension, for example.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone talking to me. I don't want to get distracted by anything. I'm like, bang, let's get on with this. And everything's absolutely perfect. I know where everything is. All the lines are straight, like, everything. And then once I'm done, I'm like, train, I'm off.
Yeah.
It's
done and
dusted. And it really is. And it's really hard to sort of then go, okay, so what am I doing then? And Steve, when I was really bad at it, Steve used to say to me, like, I get into a mode and I go, right. And it's because I'm having to like jog, like kickstart. It's like having a kickstart. Going,
yeah.
Right, okay, right. That's it.
What we're going to do.
And
once you go, it's full steam ahead.
Yeah. I'm a million miles an hour at everything, when I'm focused on it. And then other times you struggle to get the motivation to do it.
Going.
So
really do you do domestic, industrial and commercial, or?
So for me, I specialised really in domestic. Although this year we've done quite a few commercial jobs, which is really random.
Right. But it's interesting because you get to use a bit of conduit every now and again.
Yeah,
don't use that a lot in domestic, do we?
No, not at all. I mean, I've done quite a few jobs recently with some bit of galv conduit work, and I've really enjoyed it. And I don't get to do enough of it.
You can make it nice and neat, can't you? I like doing galv conduit, the shop fitting. A lot of times do that because a lot of restaurants are contemporary now because you don't know how long they're going to be there, so they just do it in conduit. And if anyone changes over, like maybe a restaurant to a clothing shop, all the sockets change anyway.
Yeah, they take it all out, and it's easy for them to go, well, it's all stripped back, it's all gone, and people like it as a look as well, like the industrial look.
Definitely.
So yeah, it's cool. But I've never done any industrial work ever. No, never done it.
Never been on site subbing or anything like that.
No, so I've never subbed for anyone.
You lucky git.
Yeah,
it's all right, I think, but it's a bit. It's not. Yeah, it's like you say. You don't go to site and say, right, I've got to do this today, because there might not be a wall there that you put your sockets on. It's a nightmare sometimes, I think.
Yeah, I've never worked on a commercial site either, even for domestic new builds, things like that.
No,
I just can't be arsed with it. I don't
blame you.
I don't like from what I've been told from people, I don't like, there's banter and then there's people who just go out of the way to be horrible. And I don't like that. And I just think, why go and work like that if I don't need to?
So what's you do take on commercial industrial work, but you don't sort of advertise for it. It's just domestic.
Yeah. So I don't advertise for it at all. So I would say for me, light commercial. So people's getting a small detail.
You like a cup of tea? I know that.
Mate, I do like a cup of tea. I've got a bit of a rep, I reckon. It's,
I see a lot of your videos.
I do. Quite a few people comment as well now, going, oh God, I do make tea for people.
But it makes like, maybe if customers see it, they might think, well, I've got to give them a cup of tea. Because it's nice to have a cup of tea.
It should help with the people. It's the British thing to do, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's literally raining today, right? So some of the lads are on finishing off one of the extensions. So they're now doing the landscaping phase on one of them. It's hammering it down. The lads are moving stone today. And I guarantee that they will not be offered a cup of tea. And
because they're outside.
Because they weren't offered a tea when we did the extension. So it's not going to happen. And I made a joke yesterday and I said to them, well, I bet you're drowning in tea today, aren't you? And they turned up.
We're drowning.
They're like, mate, not once. And it's just not, I disagree with it. If you come and work with me, they'll make you.
I always offer a cup of tea if anyone comes into the house. Yeah, definitely.
It's the right thing to do.
I think, it's nice to have a chin wag. Well, sometimes they get stuck talking. So you sit there and have a cup of tea, don't you? Have a little chin wag.
It's the British way.
It is.
You look after people. That's the way it is.
Do you do solar or anything like that, like PV in GreenHawk as well? Or even if someone came to you and said, yeah, I'd like some solar panels, how would you go about that? Would you do it?
So yes, we are in the process of sorting out all for the solar. It's a little bit of a minefield. I'll be honest with you. Trying to get all the accreditation and all that sort of stuff.
The certified insurances and stuff.
Oh, it's a headache. Really is a headache. But so the ultimate aim for us is, because we already do EV chargers anyway. So when we're doing an extension, things like that, is offering it as a package, really. So you can have your EV charger, because we've already got scaffolding up. If we're doing all that sort of stuff,
it'd be a saving for the customer, possibly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and if we're doing a re-roof, for example, then there's another saving potentially where we can put inlay PV in. So you haven't got to go, oh, actually, I've got to buy another set of tiles, and then the solar the inlay will take place of the tiles that you're buying. So you're almost becomes super cheap then. So it's all that sort of thing. So so
many options, sort of thing. So so if someone come to GreenHawk and said, right, can you do solar panels? You'd say yes.
That's it.
So it's another sort of skill to your company.
Exactly, mate. That's the way it's going.
So if you were to go back to the beginning and say, right, this is your 16, you can be electrician, plumber, carpenter, builder, what do you think you'd choose?
Sparky, mate.
You would choose Sparky all the way.
Yeah, I'm a classic.
Because you are one, and you're sort of loyal.
Yeah, I think. So, like, I'm building. So I've got a 6 meter by 4 studio that I'm building at the minute, down the bottom of the garden, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I love doing a bit of carpentry and stuff. I just enjoy doing my electrics. So I'm like I say, I'm lucky because I get to do it all.
Is this going to be with all different LED lights and stuff like that? You're not going to put a clapper in?
No. So down there is going to be a bit jazzy. So because eventually the idea is that I can do podcasts as well from there. And, do all that sort of stuff eventually. But obviously for all the YouTube stuff that we do. Business meetings down there and all sorts of stuff. So that's the plan.
That's the plan for it.
You need to win the lottery to pay it all. That's the
thing. Yeah, it does cost sometimes, doesn't it? Because you see something and think, well, I can get that for 50 quid, but this one, 200 quid, does a different lighting sequence and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff out there, and I am, to be fair, I'm in a fortunate position with everything that we do on socials that that I've taken care of with all that side of things anyway. But it's still a consideration to make sure that you don't get too far with it all.
You get carried away, I suppose, can't you? Yeah, definitely with electrics and the smart switches and things like that.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to be just a light switch is okay.
Have a plan. Yeah. You don't have to have this dimmable touchscreen clapper app working. There's so much that you can do.
Some of them are a massive pain, and they're expensive.
Yeah. So with your company having builders,
carpenters,
you haven't got a plumber in there, have you?
So I do the plumbing.
You do the plumbing. Yeah. So with tradesman rivalry, who's your worst enemy? You think you're going to say plumbers now because that's why you haven't got one on?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I'll be honest with you. Right. So we've got a absolutely fantastic plumber that we use. Right. So his dad is our roofer as such.
Right.
So anything that we're doing, like you've rubber roofs and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's specialised. Then we use, Dave, his name is. But his son's a plumber. And he's only a young lad, and he started out. But he's absolutely wicked.
Good lad.
So he genuinely is. And I said to his dad, I said, look, when Aaron comes on, works for himself, we'll give him our work. We'll look after him. You've been brilliant to us.
So his ladies network down to start with, like then. That's
yeah. So we give Aaron a hell of a lot of work. So sometimes if people ring us up for dedicated plumbing stuff, no, here's Aaron's
straight on.
I'm not interested. Not to be horrible. Aaron will look after you. Get it done faster than we can. Do a better job. If it's a dedicated plumbing stuff, all our gas stuff, Aaron does it all. I'm lucky in that sense because Aaron's so good, but I have worked we built a house in Coventry and there was a plumber there that me and him just did not get
clashed.
And that was someone that the client had previously and got him on site, and he was just an absolute knob. I don't know how
Put it politely.
And I don't normally swear on podcasts, but he was annoying.
Yes.
And we just butted heads, and it was my site, it wasn't his. I wasn't just a Sparky there. It was my,
But you were told by the customers to use it for the plumbing.
Yeah. And he was just so arrogant, and there's no need for it. Just everyone's there to get on.
You'll get on with each other sometimes. It winds me up.
Yeah. So I made him realise that who's the gaffer on the site. And
he put him in his place.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he got put in his place. So yeah, so generally, mate, I don't really. I try not to get into all the animosity between one another. I make jokes about it,
It does. It's banter in it on site, sort of thing. When you have a go with plumbers and carpenters and stuff like that.
Some of the plumbers I know through social media are genuinely really, really nice lads.
I've got a few mates that are plumbers, sort of thing, but we just take the mick out of each other. I call him up when we go through a pipe. He calls me up when he goes through a cable.
We've
got to stay friends because we need each other.
Yeah, exactly. There's a painter and decorator that we're connected to with down the rugby club, and we quite often we'll see each other passing, and he'll always say, and it might be like 2:00 or something. We go, "Oh, just knocking off for you."
Yeah.
Gonna go and dry your eyes on 50s, all that sort of stuff. And I wish, mate.
So also then with GreenHawk Construction, you've got a social media presence, a flipping good one as well. And you're the face of it though.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be.
I don't see many other lads doing videos. It's obviously GreenHawk Construction. It's always you. It's always Mike.
And it's all Sparky stuff really as well.
Yes, you need to get the other lads to do some videos to boom it. Well, it'll 5 times your audience with builders, carpenters, and stuff like that, won't it?
Yeah. Mate, they've all got GoPros. They've all got GoPros. They have.
Don't get around to using them, but maybe they're the lads cracking on. Maybe they don't finish at 2:00 like us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you say, just chucking 50s out like a confetti gun out the van as you go back.
So how did all the social media come about then? What made you decide to jump into that?
So the lads actually are all supposed to be filming. They're supposed to film every day.
You're the only one that likes being on camera then, or the other lads think, maybe not.
It's a mixed reviews because if I'm there and I film them, they're fine. But they generally, I think they thought it was going to be a bit of a fad. And in fairness, there's a bit of a darker side of why I started it all, really. But yeah, they're supposed to film and they don't, and it really frustrates me. I mean, so they've all, like I said, they've all got GoPros. I've got a slightly a different setup, but for them,
treat yourself to a bit of a better one then.
Well, yeah, because they don't do it. So
it's not the 360, is it?
I've got no. So I've got a full setup. So we've invested, mate.
You say invested. This is what you tell your missus because you spent a fortune on it.
No, well, it's well, yeah.
What's what we do, mate? Definitely. How much did they cost? It was free.
Because we film in true 4K now and things like that. So what I always do is trying to get it better and better and better as you go in. But yeah, so getting into social media. So it started in lockdown. So I think I'm very open about it. I suffer with sort of mental health and things like that. And when lockdown happened, we were told to stop. We had to sort of cease trading, go home, all this sort of stuff. Which I'm not alone. So many, thousands of people, in the same boat.
Everyone deals with things in different ways.
Yeah, and I'm very, passionate about talking about it and making other people who have felt that way know that it's okay to talk. It's all right to be open about it. Well, I was massively struggling. And at this point, I was worried I'm going to lose my house. There's no money coming in for the business. We got no help from the government, no nothing. And now the 2 lads who are still with us today, who work for us, both turned around to us and to my business partner and said, I don't want any money. I don't want any money off you. We've got no family, no kids, no nothing. I just want to come back to a job. And and that's why we take care of them now. We still paid them anyway. Just want to point that out. But it was it was the sentiment.
But it was a loan. They got to pay you back.
Yeah, I mean, with interest. Yeah, it needs to be paid by the end of this month. It's been time. So I was, struggling massively. It was. I often say to people, lockdown was the best time and the worst time of my life.
Massive test.
Huge test of sort of character as well. So I was watching those. Previous to this, I've not been on Facebook, not on Instagram, not on YouTube. No, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all. You're not this person that sits there. What do you do on the toilet then?
Well, nothing. Just go and
do your business and get out.
Get in and get out.
That's not what I do. I scroll.
Yeah, well, that's different now. When you're into that social media world, that's what happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I hadn't done anything, and I was watching, quite a lot of YouTube. I was probably getting maybe an hour's sleep a night, just with anxiety and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, worry,
panic attacks, and all sorts of stuff. And I thought, right, I need to do something. I need to sort of train my brain to do something, and I cannot have any spare time. That sounds stupid, but to not be allowed to let my own demons take over.
Yeah.
So at my old house, I had a detached garage, and so it was about 11 o'clock at night, getting up to nearly 12, and I just went into the garage, and all my neighbours, it was a close, so all my neighbours sort of knew, bloody hell, Mike's up to something again.
He's building something.
Midnight Mike, but I bet he's building something.
I had an idea he's putting together,
yeah. They all took the mick out of me around there. But so anyway, so I've gone into the garage, and I just recorded how I was feeling on my phone, and it felt good. It raw, very raw.
Everyone just hold it as expecting that. Well, to this day, no one's seen that video in a. No, so it's just something you were telling to yourself, saying to yourself, saying out loud.
Saying how I was feeling. So the only people who have seen it is my wife and my mum. They're the only two people who have ever seen it.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, that felt, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like, it fixed everything. Brilliant.
Yeah, I know, but it's a step in the right direction, effectively. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first sign of me acknowledging that I needed to do something. So I then thought, you know what, I'm gonna look a bit more into how do I film, how do I do this, and it started out as a joke, really.
Dive deeper,
and it just went off, and I was speaking to my business partners as well, and and they said, oh look, I've got an idea, I'm gonna create a YouTube channel for the business, blah blah blah, and because how I am, they were like, yeah, it's fine, mate, you crack on.
You do it, Mike. If nothing will come of this.
He'll be done out of this. He'll be bored of this by the end.
On to the next soon, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be something else. It'll be oh, that van's got to go. We've got to get something else. It'll be all that sort of stuff. And they thought, it'll drift off. But then when I started learning, about editing and all that sort of stuff, and it literally, it sounds stupid. Part of it is kept me around, because at the early stages of doing it,
when you say around, Mike, you mean around in business?
No, just being around.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Because I didn't allow myself to have a minute, and I mean a minute. So I would be doing something. I'd be like, right, okay, right. The kids are in bed. Right, okay, I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to learn how to do that. And so if you imagine,
kept your mind ticking over.
My mind,
things that you're interested in.
Yeah. So my mind was literally, if you can imagine a hamster on a wheel, it's like you've given that hamster a massive shot of Red Bull, and he's like that, and that's how my brain had to be at all times.
You wanted it to be like that.
Yeah, I needed it to be like that. So I started doing Instagram, and I thought, well, the two go hand in hand, and that's basically how it's evolved into doing that, and it's now led me on to some really, really cool experiences, opportunities.
Like when I first saw you, sort of thing. I met you at
CF Live, wasn't it?
Live, weren't it? On one of the shows there and stuff.
It's led me on to some really, really cool things, and I get to meet some really, really cool people like yourself.
Thank you.
It's I mean, it's great, and that's what it's all about. I've done some mental health podcasts since.
Mental health in, like I say, our era, our age is massive, I think.
Huge thing.
And we probably don't see it as much because we don't talk about it. Like,
that's the biggest problem.
We don't talk about it. And little things like you suggested then, going into the garage, out the way, no one can hear you, talking to yourself on a video. I think that's really good. I've done that before.
Yeah. It's almost like an acknowledgement and an ownership. So it got to, so I've now got a really, really good friendship group. So I've also lost friends through not realizing that some people aren't good for me as well, and growing up, should I say. So that's the social media thing. So it started out as a bit of a joke. Now I do take it a little bit more seriously, but then I've now come to it where I'm just me, and
I think you've been forced to take it seriously, Mike, because you've got 3,000 odd people following you on Instagram. You've got 13,000 people following you on YouTube. Yeah, so maybe you've been forced to say, right, okay, not joke anymore. This is quite serious.
Yeah, it's a bit weird because like the numbers on Instagram, it's like, so I get on average, I think it's about 70,000 views, every, what was it, 28 days or whatever it works out at.
Yeah.
And you think that's nuts. That's a stadium full of
people.
Think,
don't you, hang about, everyone's looking at me, watching me. Yeah. Do you feel like a bit like, well, hang about, everyone's watching me? Something like that.
Sometimes you do. It feels a bit straight. What I get weirded out by sometimes is go, "Oh, you're right, Mike." And you're like, "Yeah, you're right." And then, thinking, do I know you? And it's that bit, and I'm like, "Oh, I realised that I've seen you on YouTube or Instagram,
the thing,
whatever."
Yeah.
And
you're putting yourself out there for the whole world to see. In effect,
yeah,
there is some people who are going to come up to you and go, "Oh, mate."
It's great, and the people are wicked. Everyone's really good. I think. In the early days, I used to worry about trolls and things like that. And I used to get, because, you can be the best electrician, the best whatever you do. You're always going to get someone who's going to just be horrible.
Oh, 100%. Horrible. Yeah.
And that's okay. And it used to bother me. And now I just look at it and go, well, you're just helping the algorithm. Thanks.
Exactly, man. Yeah. I've sat there before and had a conversation and argued with them. I think, why am I doing this? I'm arguing about something I've done for 20 years.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. And I feel sorry for them. I do. So it doesn't faze me now.
Rise to it, really, yeah. Well, the thing is, it's funny because you start having a conversation with someone about, well, it was about cutting a drain-off hole in an outdoor socket. And we haven't argued about it. But then for the guy that says, great videos, thank you very much for doing it, I didn't talk to him so much. Really, you should talk to the guys that appreciate it, don't you? It's stupid. It's how it works in your head.
It's really cool. I've got quite a loyal following. And when you get someone who goes a little bit too far, is that they all just go,
it's just like, an attack.
It's like...
And then you feel sorry for him, saying, now leave him alone. Like, he's probably had a bad day.
He's probably crying to his mum right now,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's closing social media down and stuff. He's not going to be a spark anymore because he's an idiot.
Yeah. I'm really going to change my life choices because he's had a go. It's
so
really weird.
In the future, then, with GreenHawk Construction and the social media side, have you got a plan in your head of where you're going to evolve to, or is it sort of, well, whichever opportunities come along?
No, so no plan. So for us is just to keep the business pushing forward as usual, keep the family together as such, because we do run it as a family. So keep the family together if we can. Obviously we've got to remember that some of the lads are young, and they're going to want to strike
away,
no doubt, and I understand that, and we will always be there to support them and stuff. So the social media is just carry on.
Well, like you say, you're building a studio as well.
Yeah. So eventually, like you say, I'd like to do podcasts at some stage. But I've got into golf as well. I also play rugby and coach rugby. So
when do you get time to do all of this? Because you're quite a busy bloke by the sounds of it.
Yeah. So I'm busy, and again, I like keeping myself busy. So I do it this way. So that there's also something we're working on with the golf side of things as well in the background. That's going to be launched soon. But yeah, so social media, I just see where it takes me.
Do you think that it was a good thing you jumping into social media? Because it sounds of it, you're quite chuffed about it, sort of thing, and it's opened up a lot of doors for you.
Yeah, I'm really. I sound stupid, even then I consider myself as a small, into social media. I see it as I'm quite small fry, and that's fine. But I'm immensely proud of where it's got to, and I do it for the right reasons. I don't do it really like this. It's not for the money. It's just there's a bigger reason why I do it. And I like giving back, and also I like to show the real side of everything, because that's what the problem is this Instagram. It's like Instagram versus reality. It's the same on our YouTube channel. Is that we show the good, the bad, the ugly, and if it's not
the struggles
right,
as well, the problems you come up against.
Yeah, it's because the problem is people look at it and they'll go, "Oh, I wish I was doing it this way," and they've got all the best jobs and this and the other. No, it doesn't
Not a
happen.
chance.
That's why we do the channel the way we do it.
Yeah,
because I want people to realise that if you want to watch a high polished program like that, go watch
made up, fiction maybe
on BBC or something. It's that's not what we're about. We want to have a laugh. Everyone else, I mean, I've been posting about crisps for some reason. I don't know why.
I did see that. McCoy's, I like them.
I don't really know why.
It's relevant to maybe. I don't know. I don't know if does your missus make you a pack up?
Yeah.
I get a pack up. So she's on a health thing at the minute, so I get nice salads with avocado and boiled chicken. It's lovely, and a bit of McCoy's. Or it depends what crisp we've got, and the kids haven't eaten them all.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So I go to the gym as well, you see. So I go to the gym because I had this health scare a little while back, and so I go to the gym every day as well. So I'm at the gym at 6:30 when it opens. So I'm awake at 5:30. So I've actually sort of changed the way I do things as well. So I eat better, not squeaky clean. But again.
If I throw a Snickers in there every now and again.
Yeah, it's fine, mate. At the end of the day, I go to the gym to make sure I look after myself, but equally, turn back the time a little bit if I can.
Yeah. Well, I think you get a bit older, you've got to start looking after yourself.
Yeah.
Well, like you say, your health and your mind sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm so disciplined with going to the gym that I wake up before my alarm goes off. And even if I'm feeling ill, I'm feeling naff, I'm down or whatever,
get down there.
I'll still go, and I'll get there, have a good session, and then I feel great, and it sets me up for my day, and then I get home and I've got my family time when I get home. But like,
were you ever in the army at all? Because you sound quite regimented.
Yeah. Well, it's funny,
organised.
Yeah, it's really funny because I'm really not organised at all.
The way you talk, you sounded like.
Yeah. So
with all you've got going on, you've got this is happening, that's happening, this is happening. It's quite, I don't know, I think it's well organised.
So last night was our rugby training for me personally. Last night on top of everything else. And so I just want to get on, let's get training, let's go. And I fell into a role of, I keep calling it Sergeant Major, and so I take over the training. I'm like, right, let's go, let's get moving. You're
very motivated then, yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm in, like I say, if I'm in, I'm in. And one of the guys, I found out last night because he's new, he's come down. He was a ex-Marine, he was saying last night. And he says, "Oh, when did you serve?" And I was like, "What are you on about?" And he goes, "Come on, who were you, with?"
Secret Services, mate, can't tell you.
Yeah, and then that's what he thought. I said, "Mate, I was never in the army," and he went, "Whatever, mate." And I was like, "No, seriously, I was never in the army." And he said,
"Just the way up."
Yeah, he's just like, "Yeah, I don't believe you." And I was like, he says, "I've served in the army for 20 odd years," and he says, "You've got way too many traits to not be." Like,
yeah, no, like they come across there, but like that's a good thing.
Yeah. I'm a driven person, and I think now, since having a health scare has made me way more focused on living life and enjoying it and being around for my kids, and my wife, obviously. Yeah. And hopefully giving back a little bit to people, if, they're watching, and give a bit of
good attitude. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, a guy messaged me yesterday. I'll give you a little example. A guy messaged me on Instagram, and he said, "Oh, I've got I can now basically do something. You know, can I have a bit of advice for it?" So I try and help. I try and help where I can. And I'm like, I'm no expert, mate. It's just,
It's my opinion. Maybe I've been there before. Yeah, and this is what I did.
And you try and help people out because you don't know everybody else's circumstances, and sometimes, you know, we can be a bit closed book and, you know, cards close to your chest and all that sort of stuff. And I think if anything with social media for me, if I can help someone, you know, then I'll always try. I mean, I can't physically do a great deal, but if you can give some emotional support,
just cut the messages maybe and stuff. I think it goes further than what you think.
You never know. I mean, so I did my best, and that's why I always give people, because you never really know, they might be reaching out for a big
for some there's some little reason, give them a bit of a G up maybe.
Exactly
like
exactly.
You
know, life's short, mate. So.
Indeed it is. Well, Mike, thank you very much for coming on to the podcast. I've got you on like sort of, how old's your social media presence now? 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, 2 or 3 years, I'd say.
Yeah, so I got you in early because by the sounds of it, with your attitude and your regimented thoughts, you're going to go quite far. And with GreenHawk as well. So remember this, everyone. This is early. This is Mike from GreenHawk Construction, who did come to talk to us in 2023.
There you go, mate. I'll be back. Don't you worry, Ben. I'll be back.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thanks.
Well, there you go. The impression I get with Mike is what a great bloke. And to open up for them personal things about his mental health was quite raw, I think, for a lot of people in the world. So go ahead, give him a follow over on his YouTube, which will only help him grow bigger and better. He's going to do it anyway. Keep an eye out for more interviews on Toolbox Talks for Electricians. Till next time.